Hi students, so this is a video on chapter 9 and I'm going to break into several videos and we'll start at the beginning. So this is video 1. Chapter 9 will be talking about cell communication. So how does cell actually tell another cell what's going on? Obviously they don't talk. So we've spoken in class how it's all through touch. Okay, so we're going to look at how cell and cell actually tell each other information. First of all, let's think through, well, why do they need to talk? What if they don't talk? Okay, and what is the scientific name for cell communication? So the reason for cell needing to communicate with each other is so they know how to act around each other. When you were first fertilized as an egg, your fertilized egg to develop into an embryo, all the cells needs to tell each other, okay, you're going to become the mesoderm, the ectoderm, so different part of the tissue, bone, heart, they all need to structure around each other. So development is important for growth. And obviously, a lot of times when you're injured, you also need to tell other cells to come and repair, okay? Or when you have bacteria and virus, COVID-19, then your white blood cell needs to come in and actually battle the problem, okay? So all these needs to somehow send out signal to tell what you need, neighboring cells. Obviously, cells need to respond to environment and they need to communicate that to each other. It's too hot, we need nutrients, etc. Now, the scientific term for cell communication is called cell signaling. Okay, so whenever we talked about cell signaling, then it's cells' way to talk to each other. So first, let's identify the players for actually doing cell signaling. There's two main things. Right here, what you're seeing is a cell, and it has something on it. That's actually a protein on the cell membrane. So cell signaling between cells require two things. One is the signal itself. In here, that will be the orange, that orange that's moving. That's called ligand. And then you need a receptor protein, which actually receive the message. Both of these are usually made of protein. So ligand is the actual signal molecule, and then the receptor on the cell is going to receive that message. So remember, ligand and cell receptor. Now, let's talk through the main three parts of cell signaling. How does that ligand telling a receptor what to do actually carry out the communication itself? So the three steps, the first steps, receptor activation, okay? This receptor activation is a lot like how when a ball hits the glove. If you imagine the ball as the ligand and the glove of a baseball player being the receptor, then when the ball hits the glove actually closes automatically. Same thing. When the ligand binds to the receptor actually conformational changes. What is conformational changes? That means it changes its structure. Remember again, structure determines function in a protein, yes. So receptor activation is when ligand binds to a receptor, okay? And this is typically outside of the cells, but we're gonna talk about two kinds, okay? One is outside, one's inside, that's coming up. And as it binds, second, it causes a structural change called conformational change. So know in the future when I talk about conformational change, that means protein structural change. So if you have printed my presentation, note conformation equals structure. Now that binding and changing of the shape is then the activation that kickstarts the beginning of what we call cell signaling. And then after this receptor activation, this message coming in is now going to relay inside of the cell. So we move to number 2, okay? Okay, so this is just a picture from the textbook showing you a ligand coming in, okay? And this is the receptor on the what? What is this? It's phospholipid, that's the membrane. And when it binds, do you see how the shape changes from this to this? That's called receptor activation. The binding of the hormone to the receptor causes conformational change, resulting in receptor activation. Well, what happens after receptor activation? Then that's your stage 2. Stage 2 is a lot like when you have one thing hits the other, it's just a cascade of events. Okay, so signal transduction is when that receptor or that ligand hits the receptor changes shape and then goes on and they kickstart more and more mechanism, more and more biochemical pathway within the cell. We talked about biochemical pathway, okay? So the initial signal from the ligand to the receptor is then converted or transduced. The signal transduction is changed to a different signal inside the cell. That's the second stage. Now it goes from outside to inside. And it forms an intracellular, inside the cell signal transduction or pathway. It's like a baton race. Okay, I give it to you, you give it to the next, or very much like what we're seeing here. One hits the other hits the other, and now you just get a cascade of events inside the cell saying, hey, something is telling us to do X, Y, Z. And what is that? So that will be stage 3. Ligand hits receptor activation, signal transduction. Finally, you're going to get a stage 3, cellular response. And the cellular response come in 3 possibilities. One is it alters enzyme function. We talked about enzyme being a catalyst. So it can change your chemical reaction inside you. It can alter structural protein functions. So before your structural protein, maybe all your cytoskeleton is set up a certain way. And now the signal comes in and you disassemble all those cytoskeleton and move it to another place. For example, a cell is like a bag of water. If you've ever seen a single cell amoeba cell, it's a protist, how does it move? Well, think of a bag of water. It lays down cytoskeleton in the front as it picks up cytoskeleton in the back, so it's able to move forward. How does it signal that? A ligand comes attached to a receptor. The receptor then relays in and tells the cell to respond in that way. Last, gene expression. We talked about this. Gene expression is when you have a DNA going down central dogma and make what? RNA. Then translate into what? Protein. So somehow a ligand from outside can then change the genetic expression of a cell through cell signaling. Okay, so if you've finished listening to that, now you can use this picture from your PowerPoint and see if you can fill this out. What is stage 1? What is that called? What is this? What's happening here? What is this called? And what is this called? And what happened right here? That's stage 1. Then you got a baton race. What's that? Stage 2. Finally, you have stage 3. And stage 3 comes in 3 possibilities. Can you list them out? Okay, you can stop the video right now and then try to do this before we continue.